So I'm Abby. It's lovely to meet you all. As I mentioned, I'm in New Hampshire right now, but I'm originally from the UK. I'm head of the marketing and events team at Scarlet Udaan, and I'm super thrilled to be joined by several members of my team. I'm currently a Dartmouth College student. I'm studying cognitive science and anthropology. I'm in my final year. And my interest in social impact really began in high school when I organized a charity fashion show to raise awareness for eating disorders. And then during my time at college, I've worked with the Dandelion Project, which is a project partnered with a school in China to bridge the educational gap that the children of migrant workers face. So I'm super excited to introduce you all to members of my marketing team. So Minnie, Helena, and Tyler, if you'd all like to unmute yourselves and jump on and introduce yourself, that would be wonderful. Minnie, why don't you start?
I'm Minnie. I'm in charge of the presentation, so if that goes wrong, that is entirely my fault. I'm currently in Northern Ireland in the UK. I'm a final year human geography student at Durham University, so a lot of geography, but also a bit of politics, a bit of psychology, that kind of thing. Most recently, I've done a module on development, which really encouraged me to work with Scarlet Udaan and to realise the value of fundamental kind of social change and in helping improving people's lives. So done a bit of work with young people, youth clubs, peer education with Girl Guiding. And yeah, that's kind of me.
So hi everyone, my name is Helena and I also currently study at Durham University. I joined Scarlet Udaan around 5 months ago, and ever since then I've been really lucky to be surrounded by amazing women that really try their hardest to educate people on FGC and will hopefully be able to eradicate it by 2030. In my leisure time, I really enjoy traveling. That's why I moved from Germany, my home country, to the UK. I enjoy the outdoors. I like to go hiking and skiing, and besides Scarlet Udaan, I also volunteer for environmental organisations and help out at the kennels.
Hi, I'm Tyler and I'm currently in South Africa, but I study at Durham University as well, and I'm second year law student. I joined Scarlet Udaan also about 5 months ago, I think, and I've really enjoyed working with such an amazing bunch of women. Before this, I worked for another foundation which helped disabled children, and I've always been really passionate about children and women. And I think that kind of transcends here. I helped raise money for this disabled foundation, and yeah, it's been really nice to work with a different type of foundation now.
Thank you so much, guys. And some of you may be aware what Scarlet Udaan does, but my team members are just going to briefly describe to you a little bit more about us, our impact so far, and then just briefly what FGC is. So take it away.
Yeah, so we are Scarlet Udaan. We started about 5-6 months ago, and we're entirely youth-based. So I think everyone in our organisation is under 25, if not younger. We've had a really inspiring impact so far through our Instagram page, our Facebook, our LinkedIn, that sort of thing. Our podcast, we've run events. We're really focused on education and making sure people are aware of what FGC is, as well as the impact that they can have on helping or stop it entirely. And it's really important to note that FGC is a human rights violation as a group. No medical purpose, no social purpose, really. And it's a practice that could, if it was eradicated, could really help improve the lives of women and girls all over the world. So yeah, it's a really worthwhile cause, and we are really passionate about it and really excited for you guys to get to know more.
So Minnie has described what Scarlet Udaan is, and then I'll be describing what sets Scarlet Udaan apart. So Scarlet Udaan, the podcast aims to raise awareness on the practice of female genital cutting and addresses its impact on girls and women all across the world and discusses the global concern that it is today. The podcast features survivors, for example, the Hoda Ali podcast that was had, and medical professionals, authors, academics. There's quite a wide range of things that the podcast covers. Our social media pages also incorporate very many different materials. Like today, we'll be seeing that, including educational events and workshops, highlighting stories and providing overall information. Also, as Minnie said, it's quite important that what sets us apart is we're youth-led. Both of us are very young, and I think we bring a very innovative touch.
Yeah, so as you kind of heard before, at Scarlet Udaan, we focus especially on eradicating female genital cutting by 2030. But you might think, so what exactly is FGC? Well, it comprises all procedures that involve the partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injuries to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons, and that's the very important part. The most shocking thing I find are some numbers. So in Africa, we've got 92 million girls over the age of 10 that are estimated to have undergone FGM. You might also think, well, that issue might be far from me. I don't really relate to it, whereas I kind of have to prove you wrong. So in the EU and the US, we've got 500,000 girls and women who are living with the consequences of FGM. And also current research in Asia estimates that 150 million girls have undergone FGM. So what are the reasons for such practices? So first of all, we've got the social pressure to conform. We've also got traditions and customs that play a role. And for many individuals, it's also a form of cultural identity. It's also in those countries deemed to be proper sexual behavior for girls, and also a form of sexual control over women.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So now on to the more exciting thing. We're incredibly lucky to be joined by truly inspirational speakers from around the world. And we're just about to look at my favorite slide, which really highlights how much of a global organization we are as a team, but then also how much we're interconnected, and so fortunate to be joined by a truly inspirational group. So Nonya and I are calling in from stateside, Julieta is from Chile, Tyler's in South Africa right now. So as you can see, we truly are a global group. So without further ado, Minnie is going to introduce our first speaker.
Hi everybody. So our first speaker is Selin, who you can see down, I don't know where she is on your screen, but she has Selin Girl Up next to her. So she'll be talking to us first. She's 17, which is kind of mind-boggling for the amount of things she has done that I'm about to read out. It may take a while. She started the first Girl Up Club in Istanbul, which is a global organization, which is really exciting. She works towards gender equality. She's also the youngest United Nations He for She advocate, which works on women's equality, which is also really exciting. She's also done work for Girls Who Code in Turkey and so many other amazing causes. She has founded organizations, she's worked on global scales, she's worked on national scales, on kind of small city scales, which is all really exciting and mind-blowing considering she is 17 years old. So Selin, the first question that I had was, you founded the Girl Up group and it was the first one in Turkey and it's only grown from there. What would your advice be for young people who want to start an initiative like a Girl Up Club, but maybe don't know where to start if it's not already in their area or around them, and they maybe would like some guidance on where to begin?
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to the brilliant discussion we will have. Regarding your question, I have started the first Girl Up Club in Turkey, and to give a little more information about Girl Up is a campaign started by United Nations Foundation to help girls build leadership skills and also to provide them a safe space where they could advocate for their passions. We aim to help young girls to find their inner power in every corner around the globe, which is so exciting. So how I have started the first Girl Up Club in my country, I just directly got in touch with United Nations Foundation. I tried every single way to get their attention. You know, I have sent email to so many different people and so many different places, offices, and at some point I got their attention, and they were more than happy to help and support me, guide me through the journey. And regarding Girl Up, for example, they welcomed me with open arms and nothing but more than love and support, because these organizations, not only Girl Up, but these kind of organizations, especially youth-led organizations, they want to help you. They want you to they want to have you by their side, because as Gen Z, we're all looking for change. We are all trying to make meaningful change. So I would say that do not be afraid to send that email. Do not be afraid to go and talk with that person. I know how scary it can be, but just, pushing the limits and try to get out of your comfort zone.
That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. So we're going to skip forward and introduce our next speaker. So Sakshi, you're up. So she's the Resource Mobilization Executive at a foundation that's working on menstrual health and hygiene for women. She recently graduated from Boston University after studying psychology and business studies. We're truly delighted to have her here. Would you like to jump in and tell us a little bit more about you and the foundation before I ask you your first question?
Yeah, so Myna Mahila Foundation is a grassroots-based organization run and managed by our beneficiaries in the urban slums of Mumbai. We have a menstrual sanitary pad production facility in our center in Govandi, and women from the Govandi slum community itself run this pad production facility. We have 3 operational units: Myna Health, Myna Employ, and Myna Research. Since we were founded in 2015, Myna Health has been providing women with health education and access to affordable menstrual health products at their doorstep. Myna Employ generates employment opportunities and employability skills for these girls and women in the urban slums. And Myna Research focuses on Myna's data-driven approach, which helps us make strategic decisions. So my role is kind of more on the research and fundraising, budgeting side of Myna.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And as you have recently graduated college, congratulations. I'd love it if you could touch base a little bit on like moving your advocacy work and the transition from college to your social impact work as your career.
Yeah, definitely. So Myna Mahila's goal for the next 5 years is to improve access to women's health and hygiene products and shift health behaviors for 2 million women across India by 2025. So in the social impact world, there's lack of research, making data-driven informed decisions, and effectively measuring the impact being created. So through my major in psychology, I was involved in the family development lab at BU, which has helped me kind of understand how to systematically collect qualitative and quantitative data and then analyze this data to further work towards measuring the impact being created. So I also realized, as working as a residential counselor with students with emotional behavioral challenges in Boston, that kind of doing one-on-one therapy or counseling is like a drop in the ocean for a country as big as India, with a population of 1.3 billion people and a lot of people living below poverty line. So I kind of, when I graduated, I realized that I wanted to work towards creating more systemic change through advocacy and actually shifting health behaviors. So that's when I joined Myna Mahila Foundation during the pandemic. And my business background has kind of helped me more on the technical side of things, where working towards creating strategy and operations of our different programs to achieve our goal to reach 2 million women from low-income families and vulnerable women by 2025. And then also working more on the fundraising, budgeting side of our programs.
Thank you so much. Helena.
Okay, so our next speaker is Nonya, who's a passionate advocate for human rights and specifically advocating for women's rights. She cares deeply about female genital mutilation or cutting and started a non-profit organization called Shifa to tackle that problem. Some of the focus points of SHIFA are conducting educational advocacy workshops to sort of break the taboo stigma around FGC. Therefore, she aims to bring people together and create a more open and accepting environment. She currently studies international studies at the City College of New York and has been proclaimed a Forbes 30 under 30 scholar. So Nonya, would you like to add anything yourself?
Yes, thank you. So as you mentioned, I did start a nonprofit organization. When I started this nonprofit, I was 18 years old. It was 2 years ago. And sorry, I was 19 years old. It was 2 years ago. And the reason why I started it is because I'm originally from Egypt, where over 87% of women have undergone female genital mutilation or cutting. And when I first was learning about it, I was enrolled at BMCC, another college in New York, and I wanted to learn more. I was very confused, like why the practice happens, why so many women have experienced this practice. So I looked more into it, and it turns out, and I talked with my family, and it turns out that I almost experienced the practice myself. So learning about the practice, learning about my personal connection, learning about how many women in the world have undergone the practice, I started to begin really interested about the practice, and I got really passionate to advocate against it. I didn't know what to do or where to start or where to put my passion. So it was around the time when I transferred colleges to City College of New York. And when I got there, I found out about a social impact, the Zahn Center. It's a social impact entrepreneurship program that helps college students with the opportunity to become entrepreneurs. So I was really scared, but I applied within like 24 hours of the deadline of the application. I was just so passionate. So I was like, okay, let me just apply to advocate against FGM. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I think a good thing for this, through the research that I've done, was spreading awareness and educating people about what the topic is so we can end it. So I just started there, and from there it's been really a great, difficult experience. Through the incubator, we learned different things like marketing, financing, team management, building partnerships. Also had mentors who were helping us, which was really great. At the same time, it was also a competition. So we were learning all these skills, and we were in a competition with other startups who were also doing amazing things. And we ended up winning second place in the competition. And then we got into a summer accelerator. So there was a lot of support for me on this side. But it was also a really challenging topic to work on because it was a very sensitive issue. So one of the things that I struggled with a bit, which I'll talk about later, was getting more people to advocate against the practice, more people on my team. But some of the organizations that we partnered with so far were 7 national and international organizations, including the US End FGMC Network, Sahio, and Global Women Peace Foundation. We've also done a lot of educational advocacy workshops on my college campus, where we've impacted and educated hundreds of students. And I'm so excited to continue to move forward with these workshops.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So as you've already said, you kind of founded SHIFA, and then now you provide educational workshops. And I was wondering, because it's such a highly sensitive topic, would you like to explain more about your work and how you deal with that, and also how you manage your role as a youth activist and also being enrolled in full-time education?
Yes, thank you. I think starting off with the sensitive topic is definitely a very sensitive topic. A lot of people feel uncomfortable talking about it. And personally, through my research and through my work, I think that's the reason why FGMC is still going on today, because not a lot of people are talking about it. They're keeping it to themselves, which is why it's important to spread awareness. It's important to create that space. It's not easy to create that space. So what we do with our educational workshops is, first, we start off with it. When we used to have it on campus, we used to put through our marketing techniques, we used to say like what the practice is, that it's a very sensitive topic, so people can know before they came to our workshop what we'll be discussing. But when we had it on campus, some people would just come into the rooms and they would just want to learn like what's going on. So we would put flyers on the doors that would say trigger warning, just in case anyone comes in who had undergone the practice or who had a family member who had experienced it. So that's how we would create that space for them. Our workshops would usually start off with an artistic video where we'd kind of bring a different stance instead of like an educational stance about FGM. And then we would just start talking about what is the practice? Why is it relevant in the United States? How many women in the world have undergone the practice? And the most important thing is what they can do to advocate against the practice. So we would share some petitions with them. We would tell them organizations that they can donate to, some organizations that they can volunteer at, including our organization, and also how they can advocate against FGMC in their own communities and how they can volunteer with us. So I think sharing these resources for them was very helpful in order to spread awareness. Being a full-time college student is definitely very challenging. And also doing this organization was very challenging. It was overwhelming, but I think, as I mentioned before, was what keeps me going is my passion and connection to the topic. Even at times where I wanted to quit and I couldn't move forward anymore, I really wanted to keep going because I was very passionate about the topic. And I was like, if I don't do this, even though there are so many amazing people doing this, I can also try to make that little difference where I'm impacting at least one person would be more than enough. So how do I manage being a full-time college student? I think starting off first, I would always plan everything before the semester starts, schedule everything in. I couldn't honestly have done this without a very small team. So we schedule everything in before the semester starts. We schedule meetings with our team, the meetings with our mentors, and then the events that we will have for the semester, which is usually like 1 to 2 events. I try my best to keep the work that I have to do for Shifa as light as I can towards the semester, because school is always a priority. As a college student, you always want to make sure you put school first, and then you do whatever you want to do on the side. And as I mentioned before, when you're passionate about something, you'll really make time for it. So we have, our team is very small. I haven't been able to find a lot of people who are passionate about advocating against the practice. So we just have someone working on marketing, social media, we have an email marketing, we have research, and then me and someone else co-hosting our workshops, and then everything else that has to be done, I usually just handle it, which I try my best to do. So as I mentioned, as a college student, if you want to advocate against something, you really want to make sure you're really passionately connected to it, because it'll keep you moving forward when you really can't do it anymore. And you want to plan everything beforehand and have like a small team, or at least if it's just you, just try to manage everything. Time management is very important.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that also really helps us as a team as well. So thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. And yeah.
So our next speaker is Ayo from Savera UK. And Ayo is a member, as I said, of Savera UK. She uses poems to express what harmful practices signify to her. I find that very interesting, to bring a creative aspect, and I look forward to hearing more about that. She's worked with Savera for a while now and only hopes to reach a wider audience with her work. Her personal motto is "No work is ever too little to make an impact." I could not agree more. I think that everyone's work is important, and it's so interesting, especially today, to see how everyone's come together. Every bit helps in creating change, and this adds to her main focus being women's equality, and especially transcends to the work that Savera does. What does Savera UK do? They are a leading charity tackling culturally specific abuse in the UK, including forced marriage and FGM, and they advocate for those who need a voice and offer completely confidential and non-judgmental service. I find that so interesting, as part of the reason I got into law in the first place was to give a voice to those that feel that they don't have one, and I really look forward to hearing Ayo speak on this. So my first question for Ayo is, you shared with us that you believe that no act is too small to make an impact. This is such an inspiring message for everyone watching today. What would you say is a good starting point for a young person who wants to take small steps into activism?
Thank you. Hi. That's a very good question, just because obviously, like I said, no work is ever too small to have an impact. And I would suggest maybe just start with little steps, talk to a friend, reach out to a member of your family, because they might actually not be aware of what, for example, harmful practices are, and you are sharing the little knowledge or the knowledge that you have got on those topics and sharing them with them, which will then kind of have a ripple effect. So you are bringing your voice to other people, then those people will be able to share their information with other people. So that will then actually give you the confidence to be able to actually speak out and speak to other people and be able to break the silence on those practices. And also, like, there's always organizations out there which are more than happy to have you and work with them to advocate for people who are not able to. So I will say as well, like, just try to research if there's any organizations out there which you can go and talk to, like, for example, with Savera, and try to see what the work that they're doing is, and try to see how you can join your skills with theirs. And also, like, we live in a society as well, like, where social media is quite big. So even just sharing a post or about like what harmful practices are, such as female genital mutilations is, or even like a charity that talks about it, that would be amazing, because you never know who actually that post can reach, because not everyone is able to find help. So you sharing can actually potentially save someone's life. You never know.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. And last but by no means least, we have Julieta. So she's the founders of Tremendous Collaborative Platform, and I'll hand over to her to talk a little bit more about it. She's a 17-year-old activist in climate and gender from Chile, as well as working with several other organizations. So Julieta, would you like to jump in and tell us a bit about founding a platform at such a young age and what Tremendous does?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much for this amazing space and the possibility to share with such amazing women. Actually, I'm kind of nervous because this is like my third panel where I just talk in English. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to do my best. So Tremendas, it's a platform that search for three things in particular. We work to make visible the stories of hundreds of girls around Latin America and Spain. Actually, right now we are like 700 girls in different parts of the region. And we want to make them understand that they are not only future, they are also the present. They are girls that are working every single day of their lives to making of the world a better place to live. They are working every single day of their life to search for young girls that every single day they don't have the tools, they don't have the possibility to get into social innovation, get a good education. They are fighting against stereotypes, fighting against prejudices. They know they are such empowered girls that understood they have to be part of the change, because if they don't get into the table where the solutions are being made, like they are like making the solutions, where's the real change? I'm trying my best for real. I think that's the final point in Tremendas. It's making them understand, of course, that they are not alone. We want to make them see that a problem that a girl in Colombia can be having, it's the same problem that a girl in Chile, a girl in Bolivia, in Argentina, in Mexico. They are living all the time the same problems, and they don't have actually the access to information, the access to education to actually be part of the change. We invite them to search for their talents, their skills, their abilities, and connect them to social causes. We invite them to ask themselves the question, how can I use this that I love, right? This that makes me so like, I don't know how to say in English, but these talents that I have, and how can I use it to impact in the life of others, impact in the life of hundreds of other girls. And finally, we work every single day to make them understand that every problematic is connected. A climate crisis is a human rights crisis. A human rights crisis affects gender inequalities. I'm talking as a Latin American girl, where this region, Latin America, it's a place of revolution, but also it's a place of social crisis. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of problem that affects the most vulnerable to that problems are young girls, are women. That's pretty much what we do. And finally, like maybe we'll talk about what it's about, like what's the I started Tremendas when I had 12 years old. I started because I had to experience a really traumatic thing in my life. It was at 12, it was the first time I understand that being a woman in certain spaces, sometimes people close you doors. Sometimes people start to, like telling you that it's difficult to live, it's difficult to get into some roles just because you're a girl, and that really frustrates me, like make me angry, make me furious. And that's why I really want to make them understand other girls in the region, they are never alone. There's always somebody that can have like a similar vision than you. There's always somebody that can have a similar cause that they want to fight for. There's every single part of the world. There are climate activists, gender equality activists. There are women that are fighting every single day to get more women into STEAM areas. I feel like collaboration right now is the key to achieve a sustainable future. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing about your personal experiences and then about your organization too. And I think I speak for everyone here where we would not have known that that was your third time speaking English on a webinar. So please do not feel on edge about that at all. You did a truly wonderful job. I wonder if I can pick your brain just a little bit more though. So you obviously started this organization at 12 years old, which is just something that a lot of us at 12 cannot even imagine. So what did you find to be very effective as a strategy for starting your organization and boosting your follower base and boosting your impact?
I think what's like works for me, like really worked for me, it's try to identify what are the biggest problems that you can be having as a person and your country might be having. For example, here in Chile, we had a really big social crisis last year. It was the first time I understood that 1% of the population have 26.5% of the total wealth. I know that there's people that every single day here in Chile are struggling to get the bread into the table. So something that really kind of like makes me wanted to get out of my comfort zone at 12 years old. It's because like I understood that I have the privilege of a good education. I have the privilege to get into internet. I have the privilege to actually make a change. For example, in the world of climate activists, I understood that I have the tools to start working and start like raising my voice to make people more conscious of what's the climate crisis and how it is affecting us. But I also know there are people that don't have time to take care about the environment, that because they are struggling every day to survive. I think that's something like really kind of like opened my eyes. I understood that having a privilege is just not like, oh, I'm really good right now, so I just close my eyes and think that the problem isn't there. I think that's having the space to and have the tools to act. It's like something like I don't know how it's called in English. In Spanish, we say desplante. That is when somebody just pushed you, but in a good way. It's like inviting you to actually make a change, and also searching for other girls that are not having the chances. Chile is a really long place, and everything that happens in the capital stays in the capital. So I wonder, like when I was 14, I asked myself the question like, what happens with the girls in the south of Chile? What happens with the girls in the north of Chile that they are not having any information about these kind of subjects? It's so important to make them like connect with them, show them that they can also be part of a change, especially the girls in rural areas, girls that also are more affected by the climate crisis of genital mutilation as well. Here in Chile, it's not happening, but for example, in Mexico, it's a problem that you can see every day. I think that's it. Maybe like understand what's the possibilities that you're having right now, and like get out of your comfort zone, like take advantage of that privilege and search for new ideas, search for new projects, and of course search for new people that actually want to become change makers.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was so lovely. So that sort of wraps up our host and speaker introduction. And we're going to sort of move on to a discussion with our speakers about more about their experiences. If any attendees at the moment have a question, please feel free to pop it into the chat. Feel free to send it to everyone. You can send it to me directly as well. We have lots of talking points from questions you've submitted previously, but I will be like keeping an eye on the chat just in case. And the Scarlet Udaan team will moderate a discussion with our speakers now. So Helena, would you like to take it away with one of the questions that we have?
Yeah, of course. So Selina, I was kind of wondering, so you're a member of the He for She movement, right? And it kind of looks to get more men involved in feminism and also women's equality issues. And Nonya, one of the objectives outlined for SHEFA is that you want to change the stigma for surrounding FGM&C. So Selina, have you got any tips for engaging a more diverse group of people in topics and discussions that they maybe don't see as relevant to their lives?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, before answering your question, I really want to touch on the on He for She movement and kind of explain it more. So He for She is a movement started by United Nations UN Women 5 years ago from now, and our main focus is basically inviting men to become part of gender equality and become part of change. Because I feel like when people are privileged, they don't really realize their privilege. So men usually don't realize that gender equality will benefit us all, and actually gender inequality affects us all. To give like a small example, in Turkey, during the pandemic, men's suicide attempts and symptoms of depression have been rapidly increased because in Turkey, due to traditional norms and cultural norms, people call the men in English, translating it into English, the pillar of the house. So when men were, of course, many people lost their jobs, but when men lost their jobs, they were not able to bring food to the table. So they started questioning themselves. If I cannot get paid, if I cannot bring money and food to the house, then do I even matter? So there is like gender inequality definitely affects us all, but we don't realize it. And also another thing that we focus on He for She is feminism. I feel like people usually especially men don't like to use the word of feminism, and I feel like it is the reason that lies behind it is the word itself, because it has the femme word in it. So it may sound like it is something particular for women and female, but it's actually not true. And especially working as a He for She representative and visiting many high schools around Turkey, one of the things that I have realized was that when especially teenage boys, they cannot say it out loud that they are feminists, because there is a misconception that if you are a man and if you are a feminist, then you're not, masculine enough. Because like circling back to the point, the feminism, the femme word in it, it's like it makes things a little complicated. But I just really wanted to open up about it, and because it is such an important topic. Feminism means all genders being equal to one another, not only men and women, but like welcoming LGBTQ people with open arms too. This is what He for She also focuses on, because feminism means all genders being equal to one another. And I really wanted to touch base on that because I think it is very important. And circling back to your question, I think actually diversity and inclusivity is like two topics that I really am trying to focus on, because through my work, I have worked on national areas and base, and also on an international level. And what I have realized is that we think that we are so different from one another, like country to country, or from age class, or from like social status. We think that we are so different, but from my experiences, we're not. As I have previously mentioned, we do not realize our privilege when we have the privilege. So even though we may think that those particular topics and issues do not affect us directly, it actually does. And this is what I'm trying to make people realize. I'm trying to make people uncomfortable. I'm aiming to put them in an uncomfortable position so they have to talk about it, so they have to take action. Because I think that change is not about to come. Change is not coming. No, like change is here. Change is happening. It's already happening, like it or not. So, and as Gen Z, like I always say this, but I'm a Gen Z activist too. Especially with social media and internet and technology, I think we realize we're way more easygoing with accepting different cultures and traditions than our parents and millennials, because we grew up with social media and technology. So the borders do not really exist for us. I don't know if that makes sense in English, but it's something that we use in Turkish. Like, even though there are borders, like with internet, I'm here, for example. I'm here with all of you, and I'm being a speaker and 4 different wonderful young girls. So I think, yeah, like that's what I'm trying to do, create a diverse and inclusive space for all of us, because it is just like gender equality is just like climate change. It is just like water pollution and stuff like that, it is a global that needs global solutions. And I would really like to insert he for she slogan here. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? And in terms of answering the question, what I can do, I would definitely recommend checking out UN Women's and he for she's website. They have amazing, wonderful, brilliant tips there. But to give like a couple of examples, not like there is no such a thing as a small step. Everything we do to create meaningful change, it does count. It has an impact. So, for example, if you hear someone saying a sexist word, or if you witness a sexist behavior, call them out, even though you may know them or may not know them. Maybe they are your teacher or your boss, your parents. Like, call them out, educate people, and do not get frustrated right away, but use it as an educational space. Use it as an opportunity to educate people about gender equality and feminism and why it benefits us all.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. Very interesting stuff. So I was wondering, Nonya, what are your experiences sort of engaging men in difficult or taboo topics, and how have you found their reaction to be? Was it really similar to what Selin's just said?
So I definitely agree with what Selin said. I think my experience with men, especially, so a lot of the work that we do are on college campuses. So we're interacting with a lot of college students, men who are in college. And when I would have the workshops, I would have some men come up to me after the workshop. And even throughout the workshop, I would see their reactions, like they would be very shocked. I haven't encountered a man who said, I want this to happen, like women should go through this, especially in the US, not yet. So I've seen men like advocate against this. I've seen them feel like they want to advocate against it, and they feel like this is an important issue. So I haven't seen a lot of backlash with that, which makes me like happy about that. But through the research that I've done, I've seen also several cases of men watching videos of children being cut, like in countries abroad where FGM is very common, or they're learning about FGM and they're very shocked and they're like, I don't want this to happen to my daughter. And then you see them advocating against the practice, which is why in this particular context, education is very important, and it's important to involve both genders in this, and everyone should be involved in this, because it's not just a women's issue. As mentioned, it's a human rights issue. Everyone should be involved. So I found that good to share, and I think men's voice in advocating against the practice is very important. But at the same time, it's difficult because you'll also see men in documentaries or in other countries of the world saying they won't marry a woman unless she undergoes the practice. So then this is why it's important to educate men about what the practice is, what are the psychological, physical, and consequences that it has on women, and why a woman is so much better off when she doesn't undergo the practice, and how that will affect your life together. Because I think the more men that learn about this, the more they'll be in support of advocating against the practice. So I think including men into this is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you a lot for that.
So my next question is for Julieta. Julieta, you've established a wonderful platform to encourage young people to get involved, to work towards the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Why do you think digital platforms are popular within the youth of today, and why are they so important for activism?
I think like digital platforms is so important because our generation, it's a really electronic generation. Probably my mom will tell you, like, she always tell me, the day you were born, you had a phone in your hand. Of course, that's a metaphor, but she always tell me, like, you have such possibilities to like get out, like connect with tons of people all around the world. Like, for example, this opportunity to get to know amazing women that are working every single day to a better place and in different parts of the world. I think that's what make it special. I really like history. I really like to hear the stories of my parents and my grandparents and how they move without internet, how they move, like how they connect with other realities. And now I understand, like, of course, internet, I don't know how it's called in English, but it's like a weapon. It's really good and really bad sometimes. But I think if we have, like, we take advantage of them, we like use them for good causes, like social causes, for example, for social innovation and for like social impact. I think they are really, really amazing. And for example, in the case of Tremendas, it has a lot of help. It has been really, really amazing to connect with girls from Germany, girls from Spain, girls from Mexico, Argentina, and all these countries in Latin America and South Latin America. And one of the main problems, it's, for example, here in Chile, around 7 million people don't have access to internet, don't have access at all. For example, right now we're living a pandemic, right? We're living this critical crisis where there's a lot of people that are not getting any information. They can't go to school because we're not, like, we talked right now about like this online classes, for example. And I always I'm thinking about that 7 million people. Where are that inside that 7 million people, all that young people, all that youth, that they're not getting any information, any possibilities at all. So I think that's right now it's an amazing opportunity to rethink a lot of things, rethink rethink our economy, rethink our practices, and of course rethink how are we, like, why are, I don't know how to say it, but what are the decisions we are taking and why, and how we can make it better to actually help every single one of the people that are actually right now being left behind.
Yeah, yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that is definitely some clear advantages. Do any of the other speakers perhaps have any inputs on other advantage or disadvantages they've found with the digital shift? And I mean, even in light of COVID, has anything changed significantly?
Yeah, I can touch a little bit about that on that. So with Myna Mahila, we actually have a center in Govandi, and a lot of the education and awareness programs we hold are held in our centers. But because of the COVID-19 crisis, everything moved online. So we actually shifted our entire focus to online platforms. So we're building the Myna Health application. So it's a mobile application for smartphone users. But the problem in India is there's a lot of women from low-income families that actually use basic phones. So we're also simultaneously building an interactive voice response system to reach women, reach out to women through our education modules through the IVRS system. So there have been challenges, and we're in the pilot stage of this entire process moving online. But the advantage of this is that in the long run, we can actually continuously engage with the women that we work with. So one challenge, like over time, has been to actually create that sustainable impact to shift behaviors over time and continuously engage with the women and girls we work with. But because of the pandemic now, since everything is moving online, it'll kind of get easier once the system is put in place. But it's a challenge to actually get a lot of women and girls and train them to actually like properly understand how to receive education through these systems. So we're holding a lot of focus group discussions and things like that to make informed decisions on how we educate them through the platform. But so it has its pros and cons.
Perfect. That brings such an interesting spin. Selin, do you have any insight that you can offer as well?
Yeah, of course. As my panelists just mentioned, yeah, there are many pros and cons, but definitely a big con that we have experienced as Girls Who Code Turkey was so basically as Girls Who Code Turkey, we were visiting especially public schools around Turkey, and we were teaching the basics of coding to young girls and showing them the fun side of science. We were hosting seminars and conferences, workshops, and we were just providing this basics of STEM education that every girl needs because we're in the 21st century. But now, due to COVID-19 pandemic, everything is online. And even though, yes, we can host workshops or seminars on Zoom, our target audience were the girls who didn't have laptops and internet at their houses. So now, even though we may host webinars or workshops, the girls that we will reach won't be our directly target audience, because we were like trying to, in the first place, we were trying to reach and help the girls who didn't have these opportunities. So we're still trying to figure that out, but I would say this is the worst con for Girls Who Code Turkey. And like, if anyone has an idea regarding that, like, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us, because it is something that has been the most challenging for us. Because, for example, with Girl Up and He for She and Girl Rising, Angai, with all of those organizations, they're more international, and it is easier for us to reach out to girls and provide the education and support that they deserve and need. But with Girls Who Code Turkey, it is really not like that. It is more like, hands-on education when it comes to robotics and coding. So it has definitely been challenging for us.
I definitely think that brings a lot of interesting insights. I think that a lot of us took for granted in this COVID crisis as well, of how much, yes, some things could go online, but I think a lot of things, definitely, I agree with you that some things were definitely a lot more difficult. And if anyone has an idea, we'll definitely get in contact. I think Minnie has the next question.
Yeah, those discussions were really interesting. I think it says a lot that we, as Tyler said, take the privilege of the idea that things like our education could really easily go on Zoom because all those facilities existed, but not everyone had the same experience. Sakshi and Nonya, you're both either very recently or currently are college students. And doing what you both do while at college is just mind-boggling to me and really commendable. But I'm guessing that throws up quite a lot of challenges at different times, busier seasons, things like that. So I was wondering, along your activism journey, what have the more challenging experiences been in terms of balancing academics, activism, and also then having a space kind of outside both those commitments just for yourself? So maybe starting with Sakshi.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually graduated in May, but I'll touch a little bit upon some of the challenges we faced at Myna through the advocacy and activism work we do. So, like a little bit of background on the work we do. So, first we work on, initiating women to first think about their health and hygiene needs, and then actually adopting at least one of the women's health or product services provided by us, like visiting our centers, using sanitary pads, because a lot of them use cloth instead of sanitary pads, and don't actually change their pads every 6 hours, attending our education sessions to break a lot of stigmas and taboos around menstruation in India, and finally actually working towards sustainable change by shifting health behaviors and encouraging their family members also to get involved in women's health and hygiene space. So over time, we've seen a lot of women that would actually shudder at the word period when they joined us, who now proudly, are making the sanitary pads at our centers themselves, and then also spreading messages in their communities and encouraging other women to do the same. But I'd say one big challenge has been on data collection and actually, an optimal way on measuring gender equality and using the data to measure overall women empowerment and women's decision-making power in the communities we work in. So Myna research, which is one of our 3 pillars, is working towards figuring out how to effectively measure women's empowerment and gender equality.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't think I'd considered before, when you're working on things like empowerment that are very much a feeling for individuals, what a challenging thing that is to measure, which then obviously would affect where you go next. Nonya, I was wondering if you had anything to input as a response, or as maybe talking about some of the things that you found challenging. You touched on them before with the balance and also the work itself.
Yeah, thank you. As I touched on a little bit before, I think one of the hardest things that I found was working on this alone. At some point, I was working on it by myself, and it was a lot because there were so many different roles that I couldn't fulfill by myself. I can't be everyone at once, and also I don't have the skills to do all these different things. So I found that really challenging and overwhelming, and that was at a point where I was like, okay, maybe I should just end my nonprofit and I should just join an organization that's already working on this. But the reason why I was really passionate about my organization is because there isn't a lot of work done on college campuses. There are so many women, especially on campuses that have diversity. There are so many women on these college campuses who are at risk of having family members who have undergone the practice, or women who have undergone the practice and don't have the proper resources, like the therapist who's educated about FGM, or know about reconstructive surgery, or know about a support group that they can go to. Like, they don't have access to these resources because this practice is not talked about enough. So I think always remembering why I'm doing this, what's my purpose, why am I different from anyone else working on this, and remembering the limited people around the world who are working on this is one of the things that definitely keeps me going. And luckily, I have been able to find some people who are passionate about advocating against the practice. And our organization is also youth-based, so we're all in college. So we have this communication where, okay, school comes first, so make sure you do this. And if you can't commit to this, that's okay. So it's good. And you're supposed to, these are important things to communicate. And we all know that school's a priority, like I mentioned before. So I think having a team that understands what you're going through, and you also all have the same purpose to advocate against this practice and why it's important to you, it will definitely help you to move forward. I think another thing is, at some point, the workshops on campus, they were, when we shifted online, it was difficult to actually get an audience. Though it sounded like an advantage because you'd get more people to go online with you, but it was difficult for us because on campus we would have these club hours where everyone would just go into workshops. It was a time that was already cut out from their schedule. No one had classes at that time, so we had an audience. We had a lot of people coming, and we were able to make an impact. But online, a lot of people have their own struggles with COVID, and a lot of people are going through a lot. And we're considering that, and we're also going through a lot. So I think the shift online has been difficult for us to actually make an impact, or the impact that we wanted to do. So we're just trying different things, like trying to reach different people. We're trying to take that as an advantage to reach more people in the United States, not just in New York. So we're trying our best to work with the resources that we have. I think another thing for me is definitely having limited support, as I mentioned, but also limited resources. Not every time you tell someone about this topic, like they're like, I feel for you, you know, this is a very this is a human rights violation, but it takes a lot for someone to be very passionate about this very specific topic. So that's why it was difficult also for me to get more people on my team. So, and a lot of people are just like, you know, this topic is been going on for years, and there's no way that you can end it. Like, it's been going on for decades, and it's such a sensitive topic. Like, why are you talking about this? It's none of your business. It's like a private topic. And the reason why, like I mentioned before, it keeps happening is because people aren't talking about it. So despite backlash that I have faced, I continue to move forward. And I think as a college student, one thing that is very important is one, setting your boundaries with school, with work, which I've struggled with. Honestly, I usually have more work than I don't know how to balance that, but I've learned to do it over the years, is to try to balance, make sure you take time for yourself, because the only way that you can contribute to other people is making sure that you are in good shape to contribute and to give back to the community. I think it's good to set deadlines and holding yourself accountable for these deadlines. Also, it's okay to ask for help from family members, from friends, from teachers, from mentors. I used to always think that I'm just alone and no one understands how I'm passionate about this issue, and no one will give me good advice because they haven't worked on it. But I think it's important to get more people involved, and just try your best and just keep going, and you'll get there.
That was so interesting. Thank you, Nonya. Just in the interest of time, we're going to jump to one of the submitted questions. Ayo, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned from being a youth activist?
I would probably say that that obviously we are making a change, and as youth activists, it's so much easier to educate other young people compared to, you know, if you're like older, when people already have like set mentalities. So, you know, you can try to educate younger people, and they can listen to you because they can relate to you. So they're more willing to actually listen to what you're actually telling them and try to understand them, and actually see how those are actually like topics which, you know, are sensitive, and as said by others, like taboo topics. But you know, as well, like we are in a generation where like we are seeing like today, there's so many amazing women who are so passionate about what they're doing, and they're talking on those topics. So it's a conversation that's actually happening, and there's more light on it, even though obviously we still have like a lot of work to do, but people are more aware of what's going on. And as I said before, yeah, like we are young, like young people are kind of the future. So it's just amazing to see how many people are actually passionate about such topics, and they actually want to eradicate those practices and want to make a change to other people and try to improve their lives, and make sure that women, especially because obviously like we have GM, that's who is a victim, but their human rights are actually being achieved and is not being deprived to them. And there is places where they can get help from, and there is people there that are able to support them. And the fact that it's coming from young people, I think, is just amazing. Like, is literally amazing, just because, you know, you see like all the young people and you just like, okay, you want to make a change, so it makes you want to become more passionate about it, and you want to be a part of that change and do more and be out there and talk to other people and raise awareness on those topics and try to make like an impactful change.
That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. And in the interest of time, we only have about 5 minutes left. I'm really sorry that we didn't get to all of your questions. If you do still have questions for specific speakers, please feel free to reach out to us at info@scarletudaan.org and follow us on social media. And all of our speakers here have social media pages as well. And we can try and like make sure that you get those questions answered. As a wrap-up question, this may be a little challenging. I'm going to give you all one sentence. So the first part is how or what really inspired you? What inspires you every day to keep the work going? And if you could all answer in just one sentence, that would be wonderful. And then you can have a second sentence of what's next for you all. Where are you all going? Anyone can jump in to start. Or I'm going to pick on someone. Selin, I'm going to pick on you. What inspires you and what's next?
You said one sentence, so I would like to share my motto, which is by Gandhi: "What do you want to see in the world?" Like, that specific quote keeps me going every day.
I love it. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to jump in? One sentence of what inspires you to keep going?
It's really hard to just I'm sorry. So it's really hard to just stay in one sentence, because what inspires me, it's the stories. It's every single story that the girls brought. Their story that really empowered girls, but also they have been through a lot of pain. Or you want to study robotics, that's not a woman's job. You want to study theater, you can dedicate to a hobby. You're a lesbian, that's so weird. You were raped, keep it quiet. That's things, there's a lot of people that thinks that happens to you like way too long ago, when it happens every single day at every single minute. So I think the most important thing here is, let's say just in one sentence, let's take it. If we have the possibility to make our voices heard, we have to make, like, we have to be the way to more girls to get involved in this kind of spaces. I have the possibility to be all, I don't know what to say, but be also part of the change.
I think you said that wonderfully.
I can go. Something that inspires me every day is the interactions I have with the women and girls I work with. And then I think something that keeps me going is, I think, with continuous innovation and rapidly evolving technology, it's important to think at the pace of the world changing and having that growth mindset and be open to take on any challenges. So I think the youth of today, that's what keeps us going, and the energy that keeps us going.
I can go. Just to piggyback off of what some people said, I think definitely hearing the stories of women who have undergone female genital mutilation, women who are at risk, women who escaped the practice. I think these stories, they give me chills, and they're the reason why listening to the stories, hearing people tell me about their stories, is the reason why I continue to advocate against FGM. What's next? I think we're trying to definitely impact more people in the United States, and we're also trying to see more ways that we can get in touch with organizations abroad that are working on FGM and see what work we can really do in organizations abroad, because there's just so many women. The percentages are so high of women who are affected by the practice. So we're trying to use the limited resources that we have, but we're trying our best.
Yeah, I will say it as well. Probably like what inspired me is obviously, like everyone else said now, like hearing stories from survivors, because that's who we are doing this for. So that's what inspired me. And what's next? We have established a Savera UK Youth Instagram page where we are trying to share more information on what harmful practices are. And we are looking forward to start new project in the new year where can get more young people involved in the work that Savera Youth is already doing.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for all of our speakers. I think I speak on behalf of everyone to say that it was incredibly useful. I've popped some Instagram handles, our email into the chat. So if anyone has further questions, please do not be a stranger, reach out and we can try and put you in contact with whoever. But thank you so much everyone for attending. To our wonderful speakers, thank you for joining us. And to my wonderful team members, thank you for hosting. So I'll let you all go and stop the recording. Bye everyone.
Bye, thank you so much.